transition to you. You're at the place now where you have done the same sort of thing. You went to college for one thing, you went to grad school for something else, and then you spent years till you said, screw it, I don't want this anymore. You were stuck. You were done.
Yeah.
You didn't know what you wanted to do, but you know you didn't want to do that. Like you felt like a shell of yourself every day coming home.
Exactly.
What was that feeling like?
Yeah. So this is my whole story, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But
Cool.
Ever since I was little, I have always loved to create and make things. And, my mom it'd be nap time, and my mom would have me, go take my nap when I was little. And instead of taking my nap, I would stay up and make things. I'd make little books. I'd make her little notes. I'd create these whole things, these, creative. I'd draw things and I'd put it together. I'd staple it together and make stories, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
It was just something I naturally loved to do. And then when, CDs came out and I got this boom box that you could record. So you had a CD.
Oh my God,
but
you're so
also,
old.
I know, which is why I feel like I'm a good age for this, because
Perfect.
The millennials is hybrid generation. We came into this life. We had a good portion of our life that was analog stuff.
Without iPhones.
Yeah.
Right.
And then at 12, 13, you start getting into the digital world, internet, all that stuff. But so I think we're a pretty unique generation. But anyway, so, I got my boom box and I would make these radio shows. And I loved music. I would stay up late. Even if I had to wake up at 7 a.m. to go to school, I would stay up super late listening to the radio and listening who the artist was and what the song was. And then on the weekends, I would make my little radio shows and I would, say, oh, hi, everybody. Next up we have this song from Sugar Ray. And,
that's awesome.
And play them, So anyway, that's just a little example of my life as a young kid. And also I did everything. I sang, danced, acted, played piano, guitar. I was a very
You
creative.
were the mom in the car generation. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
I can't believe girls didn't have anything. They had brownies and Girl Scouts. That's it.
Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah.
We had Little League. And then we had Little League football, which I hated, even though our dad was a football coach.
Yeah.
But they had nothing. But you guys, at least, our kids, the same as yours, we drove them to everything.
Yeah.
So you were in the car the whole time.
Yeah. But the thing is when I think back to what I chose, what I gravitated towards was all those creative things. Right. So, and anyway, fast forward to college, I got into the SMAD program, which is the School of Media Arts and Design at James Madison University. Shout out, go Dukes. Yeah. And that was amazing. It was my specialty was digital video and cinema, and it was awesome. And I was I still knew that was the path, the creative path. I wanted to come out to LA. I wanted to work in the industry and
right.
all of it. About halfway through, and then this is where my path kind of turns.
Yeah, that's weird how you got to nutrition. That's insane.
So basically, my path turned because I got confused somehow in the mix. I thought that following your passion was somehow selfish. That it wasn't, if you followed your passion, it somehow wasn't helping out humanity, that you had to give of yourself. You had to be a servant leader, which is an important thing to be, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in line with what lights you up.
Kind of like an activist.
Yeah, exactly. An activist, someone who sacrifices your life for the sake of
helping other people.
Exactly. Helping other people, that there's so much virtue in that, and that should be kind of the only focus.
Shouldn't have a passion outside of that. That should be your passion.
Yeah, putting other people before yourself. These are all great things to live by, but
right.
But at the time, I thought that was what I needed to do.
Not disconnected from your passion.
Right.
Right.
And then also at the time, I was having some stomach issues, and I was interested in ways to fix it. And that's when I learned about nutrition. I learned a lot about it. I read up on it, and I utilized it to help me.
That's so funny because that's what Jessica Alba, as a kid, had all these issues. That's why she started the Honest Company, because she had all these issues.
Oh, wow.
And she said that you couldn't buy everything, all the soaps and stuff for kids, everything for the kids was bad for certain, like 10% of the kids or 20% of the kids.
Right.
And there was nothing like honest about what was in it.
Right. Ah,
Yeah.
So, and I honestly got confused, and I really loved the fact that it helped me. And I was like, oh my gosh. Also, I was very interested. It was very interesting.
Physician, heal thyself.
Yeah. So I was very interested in it, and I confused that with I was looking for something where I can help people. I love working with people. Like, oh, nutrition, like it helped me. This should be what I do. And I wanted to go to grad school too, because I thought you should go to grad school.
But also, what about the fact that SMAD people or marketing people, like if you're in business school, there's a defined pathway.
Mm-hmm.
Political science, there was a defined pathway.
Yeah.
Accounting, there was a defined pathway. I found that pathway that was defined, but a little less defined, but it was something I loved.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, absolutely.
So like, did that play into it that you needed to make money and coming out of it? And hey, I can make money and have a good job and help people.
100%. So
you kind of got it all backwards, like what we're trying to teach.
Exactly. Right. So maybe it was like junior-ish year when that reality starts to set in that like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be an adult.
Right.
I realized, I was like, oh, this creative path, not only would it be selfish, right, that I told myself that it would be selfish, but also, not financially stable, not responsible. I should have a solid.
Not at all.
And I thought in my head, oh, I should have a solid plan B, and that's perfect. That's what I'll do with nutrition. It'll be my solid, responsible, and then I'll do that, but also pursue my creative stuff eventually.
Right.
Right,
that's the hobby. Instead of the nutrition being more of the hobby or more of the helpful stuff to people.
I flipped it, and little did I know that was completely wrong. And it's very hard to do that when you choose a path like that. It's all consuming, especially if it's not in alignment with what you love. Right. It consumes you. It drains you.
So you got a master's in nutrition?
So from there, I straight from college, went to grad school for nutrition. It was totally different. Master's in science degree in nutrition, and I became a registered dietitian. So it was like two separate things.
Right. So both of ours, mine was sort of undefined, like political science, sort of go to law, but still undefined. And then I went to master's in accounting, which is like accounting, defined.
Super right brain.
And you get your CPA, you get a certificate.
Which is
get a license. You get a license.
Because I got my dietitian credential.
I got my CPA, and I hated taking that damn test. I hate that. That sucked. That was some bullshit.
Oh, I know. I had a national test too. It was so stressful.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, so we both did like one thing that was the right brain, and we were like, that's not responsible. And then we went a left brain pivot.
Yeah.
And anyway,
I think it's left brain, which was irresponsible, and right brain was the thing. I think left brain's creative.
Is left brain creative?
I think it is.
Oh, we'll have to look that up. See, if we had another producer behind the camera, we could be like, hey.
Like a real producer who's not a star.
Yeah. Well, we'll get
the star
there.
Producer.
Yeah. Not the producer that wears all the hats.
Like a boring producer that just figures out the audio.
Right, yeah. At least
figures out my cheat. Figure out what I'm supposed to be.
Cheat at the camera. I told him before our first episode that we were like, oh, Mark needs to cheat a little bit more.
No, I complained because I only catching side of my fat head. Like, you need to see all of my fat features.
Stop.
All of my features.
I got you.
Yeah. And your nutrition has helped me a lot though too, so it's really great.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So to make it short, because I know this is it feels like, it was a long part of my life. So after I did that was like 4 years of post-baccalaureate, then 2 years of grad school,
that's
and
a lot of money
my internship of dietitian.
Not cheap.
Oh, not cheap. All of that was done about 4 years after JMU. So now I had nothing to do. So I was, not nothing to do, but it was, I finished, and I was like, oh my God, I finished.
Right.
2 of my brothers were living out here in LA, and I was like, I'm going to visit them and not have any plans for after. I just need a break. I just want to enjoy myself.
Right.
And
because now that you're employable.
Yeah, now I have the credentials.
Lots of people will hire you because there's lots of people that need nutritionists.
Yeah, it was a feeling of safety, and I think that was part of the reason why, a big reason why I went to it. But so
and to help people, so it wasn't like a crazy thing.
It was altruistic.
Yeah.
And also because I liked nutrition, I thought that was what I needed to do. So I want to get into this more, maybe in the next episode or the one after that. But there's a confusion sometimes with what you should be doing. And that's totally normal. And
Right.
honestly, if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be here right now, right?
No,
Like,
there's
I
no bad.
would've-
No, the 10 years you did that actually were good. Like I started my company and there was good things about it and bad things about it, and it went out of business, and then I started something else, did something else, and it all leads somewhere. But as long as you have that North Star, they call it, like as long as that moonshot is still there, and at some point you realize that nutrition was not your moonshot.
Exactly. And
You could help
I
people
didn't,
more with what we're doing now. When you met me too, that lit that up. Like all of
Yeah.
a sudden both things lit up, and I was like, I needed you because I didn't have that. I did a couple of killing puppies episodes, and I'm like, okay, I'm entertaining myself, but I don't think anybody else. I don't even know how to put it on YouTube. It's somewhere on YouTube, but no one can see it.
Right.
No one can even get to it.
it's probably an
It's a
unlisted
stupid-
video or something.
I don't even know what that means. The dumbest thing I ever heard.
Oh, I'm so glad we found each other then.
Oh no, I can help like a company in the Cleveland Clinic, get funded for cardiovascular care, augmented reality and cardiovascular care, which is doing really well. But I can't figure out how to list something on YouTube. It's so funny. It's like my dad. It was like my dad with the remotes.
Right.
Don't touch the remote. What, are they gonna blow up the house?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh, I didn't even know that's how it used to be.
Oh no. He still like before he passed. It was like because he had 3 different remotes and one did one thing, one did the other. And I go, Dad, it can all be on. It can all be on one.
And I remember that like sometimes if you touched one, it would like mess up the whole system.
Mess it up.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Mess
Yeah.
it up. Jay Leno has a good comedy routine.
Because there's like an audio system and then the VCR, the cable one. Yeah.
Oh my God. But anyhow.
So anyhow, okay, where was I?
I think you were out here.
Yeah, moved
You
out
came
to
out
LA.
here and then you decided, hey, I'll stay.
So yeah, a couple weeks in, I was like, wait, this place is amazing.
Cool.
It's literally paradise and this can be my
Everyone
life.
can move to Texas and Florida. It's still cool.
Yeah, I just decided that I was going to stay. So I lived out of my suitcases for several months and I started looking for jobs. I started making friends and I started myself into that dietitian path. I started taking different jobs at hospitals, and that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But, throughout the time I kept feeling like, well, I wasn't enjoying myself, but it's that mindset, kind of what we talked about in the last episode, that like you have this like suffering, like work equals suffering. And like, if you're not suffering, if it doesn't like suck, then it's not work. So that's what got me through like, well, nobody likes their job, right? Like nobody likes waking up and
the people are like the people who actually aren't working that hard, that are, part of the binary financial system or the state or the government or whoever that are in charge of kind of everything. They want you to think it's supposed to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it didn't set off red flags yet because I was like, I knew I didn't like it and I wasn't, and it was all such a drag.
Mhm.
But I was like, well, this is what it's supposed to feel like being an adult. Like it sucks. Like it just sucks. But as the years went on, that didn't work as well anymore. Those lies I was telling myself stopped working, and I really started not feeling like myself. Like I really slowly realized that I had become a shell of myself. The stuff I used to love doing, all the stuff I was telling you guys about what I love to do is growing up as a kid in high school and in college, like I was myself. I felt whole. And eventually over the years, doing just nutrition stuff and just only focusing on that, I wasn't doing any of the things that I always naturally gravitated towards and loved. And I was working against the grain. And I was a shell of myself. I was exhausted at the end of every day. I was there was no, how I told myself back in grad school, oh, I'll do the creative stuff on the side. I had nothing left in the tank for any of that. Yeah. There was no inspiration. There was no motivation. I just was so bummed that I had to wake up the next day and do that stuff again, do the nutrition stuff again.
Right.
And although I loved it, I loved the idea of it, it wasn't true to me. And I was also good at it. And I think that's another thing that made me continue on is because I would get positive feedback and people would tell me, oh, you're so good at it. And you're like, well, I'm good at it. That's what I got to do. But that's another fallacy.
You were good in the system, but you also knew that the system told you what to do and you thought there was like you couldn't be creative within that system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Because it's big companies and big systems, and they're trying to make money, and sometimes it's hard to be
yeah,
as personal and creative with your time as you'd like to be,
exactly.
right?
So yeah, I think all those things play into it, like getting confused, if you have people telling you, oh, you're so skilled at this, that's what you should be
Get
doing.
good reviews.
Yeah.
It's like getting an A on a paper.
And it's also a
I
little
couldn't
like,
stand that.
yeah. And that's a little serotonin boost, right? When someone
Right.
tells you, good
Yeah.
job, it keeps you there
You're
longer.
the best.
We're
We're going to give you another 10% bump or a 2% bump or a 3% bump. It's like, okay, seriously.
right. It keeps
Right.
you going.
The thing that I loved about your story is when you were on it, like you asked me this question, when you were on the beach,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and you got to the point where you decided you weren't going to take it anymore. Did you feel like, and this is a question we talked about like sort of off camera, and you said one of your friends had this issue. There is a point where it's not like a point of no return, but like you feel like if you continue this way, you're never going to be able to get back to what you thought.
Yes.
That's a fallacy, but it's also a good driver, a good motivation. If you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm at the point of no return. If I continue down this pathway, I am not going to get to my dream, right? A, that's a lie. You can always get back to your dream. But B, that should be that should be a sign that you need to like burn the house down.
Yeah, exactly. And that it was so a momentous moment for me. So COVID, I think it was like mid-COVID, I had started working from home. Part of my thinking was like, oh, maybe I kept trying to like make mini pivots still in the nutrition world, and any of those mini pivots weren't the answer.
Right.
So I was working from home now, and I got a new job that was doing like virtual nutrition stuff. And I was like, it's probably just that. I need to do virtual and and not be in the hospital.
Right.
Once that was clear that wasn't working, and I still, at the end of the day, even after just working like a few hours, like I still was so like catatonic and like a shell of myself.
Right.
There was a moment, my parents had come to visit. Well, they actually were quarantining. They actually had flown. This is crazy. They had flown in to visit us a couple days before quarantine.
Right.
And they pretty much ended up being stuck with us in Los Angeles for majority of the first crazy COVID months. So that was that was really nice. But anyway, my brother and I went to take my parents to the airport. And on the way back, we were driving up the 405, and we were like, you know what? Let's go to the beach.
Let's go to the beach.
It was a beautiful
Good thing about
day.
California. You can always go to the beach.
You can always go to the beach.
Right.
Yeah, half this podcast will be convincing people how amazing the West Coast is.
LA is cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so we were like, let's go to the beach. So I remember sitting there, and we were just kind of talking about life, and we were watching the waves go, and the sun was starting to come down. And I just felt this intense bout of clarity and this immense feeling of like, you need to take a leap. You need to take a scary leap of faith, because even just talking with my brother and it just became very clear to me, that this wasn't the path for me. And I really tried to make it work, and I really tried to try different things. And I was ignoring what my gut had been telling me for many years at that point, that this wasn't my path. And in order to break free from that path, you gotta face the fear of taking the leap. And it was at that moment that I gave myself the confidence, and I said, I need to figure out a way to do this.
Right.
So it was really powerful for me, and that was that moment. But it took also for me to hit that a low point, to hit kind of a rock bottom with it, of feeling like who I didn't even recognize myself.
The next podcast, we're going to talk about the things we did and maybe how we could do it better, or how other people can get unstuck and move into that next phase.
Yeah, definitely.